Portions of the following program may be unsuitable for younger or more sensitive viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
Disclaimer! Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news, reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit education or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. This video was made for entertainment purposes and is transformative in nature.
You feel, however, that we're making progress in this country and worldwide?
No. I will never say that progress is being made. If you stick a knife in my back 9 inches and pull it out 6 inches, there's no progress. If you pull it all the way out, that's not progress. The progress is healing the wound that the blow made. And they haven't even begun to pull a knife out, much less try and heal the wound. They won't even admit the knife is there.
You haven't.
Hey, John, what do you want us to take away from this extraordinary series of yours?
Well, I want people who are not Latin to have Latin envy and wish they had been born Latin, and for Latin people to realize, damn, being Latin is a superpower, man. I mean, the things that we've suffered in this country, 500 years, our wealth was stolen from us. We were lynched. We were burned, shot alive. We've been the only American citizens that have ever been deported by the millions. And yet we contribute and we build and we thrive.
To me, if you have been here for 5 years and you do not have a criminal record, you will be able to go on the dignity status for 7 years.
That status is like a probation period.
You will not be deported. You will not lose your assets. You can work anywhere in the country. You will pay taxes.
And there would be an additional tax.
A new levy of 1.5 withholding, called the dignity levy, will be held from your paycheck. You will not have access to any government program and will have to buy your own health insurance.
And another charge.
You will pay $700 a year for 7 years, and that adds up to around $5,000. Those $5,000 will represent around $45 billion.
This is provided that the undocumented immigrants total 10 million, but there are more.
And that fund will go to pay for border security. The other bucket of money, the 1.5, will go to re-educate or retrain any American who believes that he or she has lost his opportunity, his job opportunity, to an undocumented.
Some of the other legislators who support the bill said they are aware that it is not perfect. They said it's better than doing nothing.
Various groups, feminist, gay rights groups, and those who are defending immigrants have commandeered the black civil rights experience.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Yes, I'm glad you asked that because I think it's one of the most important points of the book. I mean, I think the way liberals have treated blacks like children and many of their policies have been harmful to blacks. At least they got the beneficiary group right. We do have to, I mean, we shouldn't. There is the legacy of slavery and Jim Crow laws. We don't owe the homeless. We don't owe feminists. We don't owe women who are desirous of having abortions, but that's, or gays who want to get married to one another. That's what civil rights has become for much of the left. They dropped the blacks after 5 minutes.
Immigrant rights are not civil rights?
No, I think civil rights are for blacks. We done to the immigrants. We owe black people something. We have a legacy of slavery. Immigrants haven't even been in this country. Democrats are dropping the blacks and moving on to the Hispanics because they're a larger group of Hispanics now. But could I just say to Jorge, I hate to disagree with you when you're attacking President Obama, but I think the point on immigration is you can have open borders or you can have a welfare state. You cannot have both.
Doing a great job with the heart these days.
You're late again, Eddie.
Trying to do. You ain't gonna do it. See, Big Red done pulled my coattail to you a long, long time ago.
That's bullshit, Eddie. You talking crazy.
Crazy like a mother fox. And you, I can see through your jive ass like glass, nigga.
Eddie, you got it all wrong, man.
Stealing my moves. My style, nigga. Even trying to the wrist like me.
Hey man, why don't you get your boy out of here and detox him?
You want my spot flash? Slum dwelling, scum sucking, slug ass motherfucker. You want my spot flash? Huh? Well, you ain't gonna get it, cause you ain't got it.
He's the kind of boy seems innocent, Boogie. Got everybody on the post thinking he's a strong black buck. White boys envy his strength, his speed, power in his swing. Then this colored champion lets those same white boys call him Shine or Sambo.
Whoa, Lord.
And he just smiles.
Dream about the time when I was a little boy.
Can't talk.
The night would get blue.
Can barely read or write his own name. And don't care. He'd tell you they like him. Or that colored folks ain't supposed to have but so much sense.
Yes, he would.
You know the damage one ignorant Negro can do. We were in France in the First War. We'd won decorations. But the white boys had told all them French gals that we had tails. Then they found this ignorant colored soldier. Paid him to tie a tail to his ass and run around half naked making monkey sounds. They put him on a big round table in the Cafe Napoleon. Put a reed in his hand. Crown on his head. Blanket on his shoulders and made him eat bananas in front of all them Frenchies. Oh, the white boys danced that night. Passed out leaflets with that boy's picture on it. Called him Moonshine. King of the monkeys. And when we slit his throat, you know that fool asked us what he had done wrong. My daddy told me we got to turn our backs on his kind, Wilkie. Close our ranks to the chitlins, the collard greens, the cornbread style. We are men, soldiers. And I don't intend for our race to be cheated out of its place of honor and respect in this war because of fools like CJ. You watch everything he does. Everything.
You said your people have been fighting for 400 years.
Man, your peoples too.
So I just want you to explain what you mean by that.
You know what I'm talking about. Y'all all know what I'm talking about, man. Don't sit up here and try to bait and not know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what the I talk about when I say these things. Your people too.
Explain it. Not everybody knows what you're talking about.
Radio Raheem, I don't have to explain what's understood, man. You know what I mean by that. You know what I said by that. I ain't got to go further. And if anybody don't understand that, then God be with them. Go look up the history. Go look up the history. Don't everybody believe in Google? Go Google that. See what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about, man. You know what. I dare you to sit up there and say, explain. You know what I'm talking about, man. His fighting people. You know we've been fighting 400 and still fighting to this day. To this day. To this day. You just sit here, you don't know.
And since the American white man has used his control over the press, rewrite history or retell history, and since the white man can't dispute this truth, it's not hate to say that we were kidnapped and brought here, it's truth. It's not hate to say that we were Jim Crow, discriminated and segregated, it's truth. It's not hate to say that the Supreme Court, which is the highest court in this country, came up with a hypocritical desegregation decision 9 years ago, which they haven't enforced yet. That's not hate, that's truth.
Remember, the enemy has only images and illusions. behind which he hides his true motives. Destroy the image, and you will break the enemy.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. I am your host, whiteologist, Mr. Blows Your Minds, and this is WeUpReport. Want to thank everybody in the house, Aboriginal knowledge. What's up to you as well, sir? To everybody else that shit happened to come on a Tuesday night edition WeUpReport. But before we get into all that, we must first go ahead and give to those who are contributing and give to the show. We want to give to the incomparable, always on time brother that we call over here, Mr. 0620, Mr. Spencer. Once again, tried and true blue, thorough. Brother here has always been a brother that is, when you need it, he is there. We're always appreciative. Thank you, me and my family. We always want to give our hats and prostrate and give you your flowers. And we are always indebted in gratitude for what you do and when you do and you continue to do. We at WeUpReport are thankful. So we once again cashier by Mr. Spencer 0620. So some of you might have either clicked over here due to the thumbnail, or maybe it's a simple fact of the title in itself. But before we get into that, we always got a grand opening over here. Happen to see something that make you feel some kind of way? Remember, the motto of my show is the truth don't need no partner. So what is today's show about, Mr. Blows Your Mind? Again, like I said, some of y'all seen the thumbnail. Some of y'all might have come on here due to the title. So what are we talking about? What are you talking about today, Mr. Blows Your Mind? You didn't come on Sunday. We just thought you were going to bypass it. Well, I was going to take that day off, knowing I should have been in here, and I knew some of y'all was waiting. So I didn't want to be that absentee pops. But I had to come and do what I had to do, right? So we're going to hear, we a little slow over here. People slow in doing what they're supposed to be doing. Look like, okay, let's go ahead and throw that up on the screen for me there, sir. All right, so today's show is going to be pertaining to Aboriginals by another name. Let me say that one more again. Aboriginals by another name. Now, primarily when you talk about the word Aboriginal, you're talking about having existed in a region from the beginning. Like they may say like Aboriginal forests. We're not talking about no forest though, right? Relating to the Aborigines. Keep that in the check in your mind. Aborigines, right? Often Aboriginal of, they say Aboriginal of, related to, in the case, indigenous peoples. But they always stress the fact of Australia, right? You ever notice that when they talk about indigenous, they only say Australians, right? Now, those who are avid watchers of this show over here, we have broke down maybe, I think was it last week or the week before, what we found about you had Utsi man on one aspect, right? That they found in Europe, and then they found one that outdated Lucy, right? Predating what they claim, as they haven't put all the pieces to the puzzle together yet. But they're related to the fact that they said that they had found something that outdated Lucy, and it's going to start from Europe and coming in. Now, some people might have been offended by that. Now, again, I'm just the messenger, right? Why you take some kind of, you feel some kind of way because I tell you that they said in the proceedings for something they're going to do down in the future. Don't be mad at me. Just be glad that you got somebody who tell you something before it happens, so that when you see it develop, you'll be remembering. I remember when Mr. Blows Your Minds talked about that, right? So anyway, with that being said, so the thing with this Aboriginal part here, we're going to say that, again, the usage is normally Australian when they talk about the government. And it suggests that most exact and exclusive way of referring to the indigenous people are pertaining to really just Australia. And then the funny part is they also have an add-on when you talk about those Aboriginal. They talk about in the Torres Strait Islander people. Let me say that one more again. When they talk about indigenous, they also talk about how with the Australians, but they also had an add-on to them what they call the Torres Strait Islander peoples, right? Who are they, right? And so this show again about being Aboriginals by another name. We here over in this place that we call the United States. Again, some of us call ourselves African Americans. Some say Black Americans. Some say American, some say American Indian, some say attached as indigenous, some say more. It's the umbrella term. Some say Niji too, right? But it is the umbrella term because many of us are at different levels of our understanding in the game. And some will be offended when you see when I do renditions and they say Black American and so forth, and understanding that we all graduate at different levels. It's not about when you get it, it's the fact that you do get it, right? And I know some people don't have the patience as others when it comes to, some people believe that a lot of you just gonna fall. They say 85%, 10%, 5%, something like that. I think 85, 10, and 5, right? Something like that. And a lot of people just throw the 85% away, right? I don't have time. I don't have the patience. If you're not intellectual or you're not intelligent enough, then you're going to be left behind. Okay. Well, I might be the part. Now, again, I'm not here to tell anybody whether they believe in the Bible or anything like that, but I'm just saying I might be the person that was pleading with the Most High. You know what I'm saying? When they were talking about destroying, Sodom and Gomorrah. How could a gracious and Most High like yourself, maybe there might be 50. Most High said, may not be. It's not 50 in there. Well, maybe it's 45 in there. Well, it's not 45 in there. Okay, don't be mad at me, Mr. Most High. Maybe there's 40 in it. There's not 40 in it. See, I'm the one that's going to plead that there's still some amongst that 85 that could be saved. See? Because I understand that the totality at the end of this, you need all hands, feet on deck. Because as these things come to more fruition, as you see a lot of our brothers and sisters out here who doing that work, extracting and digging for them buried nuggets, and they are disseminating this information, do you not know this is the corner that the builders reject? I am the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. You can't go nowhere else and see that somebody's been around as long as I have for 12 years and can't get 100 views. What is Mr. Blows Your Mind saying that somebody said from above? Not him. And the message that he's saying shall not be heard. So for many that come by and here, may be in disagreements to it, we can agree to disagree, agree to not agree, but we keep it on a level of we respect. Now, we'll have a part where you can't come in if you want to get them conversations, but this particular show is about the Aboriginals and by another name. Somebody is an Aboriginal because you got to ask yourself, is only Aboriginals only in Australia? Or are Aboriginals any place, again, as they say, existing first, right? So if we were to, again, there's a lot of people's philosophy who believe that Africa could be the only place that the Aboriginals can be. Or they don't even call the Africans Aboriginals, do they not? It's just Africans, correct? Africans, and then the philosophy that many people are subscribed to as being the origin of humanity and so forth and so on, right? And I say you landlockers. And many will say they don't even subscribe to the Bible. Then I can say, well, then how do you get the origin of one place and so on and so on? Okay, again, we're not in here to do that, but we're going to talk about this Aboriginal. But the point I'm saying is, when you look at trees and grasses and other animals, is there one animal and then them spread all over? Or are there just different creations in different areas that sprouted at different periods of time? Could anybody really say one specific spot, one people, or one spot. Yeah, those are the stories that's been told to us, but what is really the truth? We're not going to ever know until we ever get into the positions where we're sifting through everything that somebody else has done. It's kind of like, well, let's say we had a loved one pass away and they had you're going into their home and you had to go and sift through everything to find documents and maybe things you knew nothing about. That's what's going to eventually happen one day. We may be here, we may not be here. But once we go through everything and then put everything to the science and mind of our own, then we can test whether what they've been telling us is the truth. Because there's a lot of our brothers and sisters who regurgitate so much of this stuff as it is the exact fact by saying, oh, it's science and that. Yeah, but that doesn't mean that people cannot extract information and let's say hold back information and not disseminate certain information and keep certain information not to be told. So with that being said, you landlock us when you put us in one place. But again, there's a word called everywherean that we all can be from. And so with that being said, so when you start saying everywherean, then you say Aboriginals, that means that, well, if you're going to say that being the first on the planet, then that must mean that there must be a migration from the origin going to other places. And then there's a new sprouting, new adventures, new peopling. Otherwise, you allow everything else outside of that for the interpretation of to be discovered, explored, colonized. You get what I'm saying? So as we get into this, I'm going to go into some things that I had seen and I'm going to show you guys. I got a message here. Hold on 1 second here. I got a message here. Y'all ain't abos. That's what this Shah Sun said. Shah Sun says, y'all ain't abos. Okay. Teach his own there, brother. You understand? I don't know. You know, what's that commercial say? What's in your wallet? Huh? What's in your wallet? Meaning, what's in your background? What is in your family lineage if you was to sift through it? Right? So what you may find in yours doesn't mean that it pertains to me. You may speak for yourself, but you cannot speak for me because you don't know me from Adam and I don't know you from Adam. But you throw out that statement as exacting a fact. Now, if you would like to, have that conversation, we could have that conversation, but y'all ain't abos. Well, okay. To each his own. Now, who do I have to prove that to? Do I have to prove that to you? I have to prove it to this government? Who do I have to prove that to? But if that floats your boat and that makes you feel good, by all means, you can have that. You get what I'm saying? Now, let's go ahead and get into this, right? So again, Aboriginals, again, being from anywhere, everywhere, other places. So you want to keep us landlocked and then not understanding how the game go. As I go into today's show, I'm going to, people just like, what's his name? What was that brother's name again, man? What's his name again? What's his name? Put his name back up there again. What's his name? Shah Sun. Okay, Shah Sun, right? All right, Shah Sun. Well, if you stay long enough, I may show some position. Then if you want to afterwards, you are welcome to come over here and hit the link, or you want to have a dialogue as I'm doing the show and do what you're doing here. That's fine by me. It's all well. We don't block over here. We don't run and we tough skin. You understand? When I was growing up, we stand on the corner talking shit for fun. You get what I'm saying? So it is what it is, right? So anyway, let's get into this, right? So again, so Aboriginal being up. So we're going to go, okay, so let's look at it like this. So I'm going to ask a question. My question is, you remember when they showed this about a week or so ago? Again, this ain't, anything for gender-wise on it. Just we're going to use this as the building block going into the foundations to where I want to go and tread. Now, you remember they had that story with that woman that was distraught after man throws brick at her for turning him down, right? Remember that whole thing where this young lady here came out and said that she got hit with a brick, right? And then there was this whole disruption that kind of happened. I don't say all of us, because a lot of us, again, I don't get into the back and forth on those type of particulars. But I do view it. I see it. I may have some discussion in my household, but I'm not going to get on social media and talk about none of that, right? Now, what done fell out as time that went on, it seemed to be, may not have been as true or not, but the damage to me was after we had that great week in Alabama, right, or two or so, then this came out and then it brought another dissension of an old battle between he and she, right? That some of us are going through the growing pains of trying to, find that meeting of the minds between her and I. It's what a lot of brothers and sisters are having because, again, there is another dynamic that many of them are immature that don't understand that a lot of that comes from somebody else is throwing a monkey wrench into your mechanisms, our mechanisms as a whole as a people. And we've been fighting that the whole time. And so I asked the question is, can somebody who's not amongst you can be paid by other people to create a scenario because they, again, one aspect, some people couldn't, it was an L for them. Let's put it this way. It was an L for them that they had to hold, and there was no way to actually retaliate that would be any good. It was just, one they had to take. So maybe, let's just say, when you see some of the things that have been said and shown, maybe once somebody pays somebody to do something to put one for the team. I'm not saying it is or not, but just to show you that we pick and choose when we look at these situations. Now, again, protection, priority of, sympathizing to others than ourselves. Do we have a problem sometimes with sympathizing with other people at our own detriment? Can people of situations be used to cause divisions to each other or to ourselves? Is there a point that we're not to be involved? Is there a time when we're not supposed to be involved in something? Is there a consensus who believe our sacrifices for others? Is it many of us, again, of the Black American, indigenous, indigenous, Moors, is there many of our people who got this ideology of the consensus of believe that our sacrifices for other people and we're some kind of carpet or some rug to be walked on and used and abused for somebody else's self-gratification? Before ours, let's put it this way. Is anything before ourselves is honorable to our own detriment? Is it honorable to let other people do us in such a way to us our own detriment? A whooping boy, right? The art of fighting without fighting. We fight ourselves, but other folks, we're very tolerant and patient. Allowing people to do so much to us, right? Is it a global unification at once? Is that unrealistic? The reality is, the true understanding is home is where it starts naturally. Is that what happens? Are we supposed to start cleaning up home first before we worry about my, let's say, neighbor's yard? Right? So let me show you. So there was so much money was given, dialogue of animosity between each other, broke that what we had prior to. But then there was a story that was before this story here. I want to show you. I'll take you back a little bit. Then we're going to move forward to the Aboriginal, but I'm just want to show you something. Listen to this story here that had came out before then. And let me show you something, and we'll be right back. Check this out.
Family's absolutely devastated, but they have so many questions too in terms of the investigation. Police are still trying to piece a lot of things together themselves, but the family has questions relating to how can something like this happen when their daughter tried to do the right thing.
She led with her heart. She would give you the shirt off of her back. She was always helping people.
LaDonna Kim says that's exactly what her daughter was doing when her life was stolen from her over the Labor Day weekend. Family members say 27-year-old Donna Wilbert was gunned down at Hollywood Coney Island on Detroit's west side early Sunday morning, not long after she tried to break up a fight.
We had to even tell her, like, you can't pull over in your car when you by yourself because you see somebody on the road and they need help because it's dangerous out there. But she was kind of like the type of person that would have to, like, try or see for herself.
It started with Donna and her girlfriends having a fun night out. They went to the Coney Island for a bite to eat when an argument developed between two men and a woman, according to sources.
She just wanted everybody to go home and get home. And I'm very sure in my thoughts of knowing that she wanted to get home. I guess the guy followed her out and she was able to get herself out of the restaurant and she was shot in the parking lot.
Although we couldn't actually touch her when we went to go view her based upon the circumstance, she even had a smile on her face as we had to observe her in her last state.
She was doing the right thing, and that's what angers me.
Detroit activist Pastor Mo works with many community groups teaching de-escalation techniques to quash beefs before they ever can turn violent. He offered this advice for safe conflict resolution.
Make sure you're in a lighted area. Read body language. Look and see if they're reaching. Look and see if there's anything poking out their waist. Look at their type of demeanor. If this is the kind of person that they would have a weapon. If this is a working class person who maybe got on work clothes, you might can reason with them. This somebody with a hoodie on. I'm not trying to judge anybody, but this is somebody who looks like they could be dangerous, menacing, or just don't care. Be careful how you approach somebody who could be having a mental breakdown.
Meantime, Donna's family is determined to make sure her legacy lives on.
I just want whoever did this to know they took away such a bright light that shined on so many different people. Everybody that she ever talked to will remember her because of just her great shine. Just her personality was amazing, and she was amazing.
And no known arrests have been made. Police are still investigating, and they ask anyone with any information, anyone who may have seen something, no matter how small of a detail, to call Detroit police. We're live at the 8th Precinct. Dave Kinchin on The Edge.
Yeah, Dave, it seems so tragic when she was walking away in the parking lot, nearly free of this situation, to have it take such a turn.
Yeah, that's right. And police do have some surveillance video from the actual restaurant. We did talk with the owner of the restaurant. So he said police are looking at that video, trying to get more information. So hopefully some leads will come from that. That's very critical in all of this.
Yeah, and hopefully some tips.
So that's the story that also had went out that I see that a lot of people did not touch when it happened, right? Now, once again, everybody can, who have platforms, you pick and choose what story you think that is for your audience. I get it. And I understand when they do, let's say, virals. And many of us go out our way to make sure that we get this, so we're some of the first ones to do it. And again, under that situation, again, whether that's true or not, whether a man hit a woman in the face with a brick. Again, there's some conflicting stories and things that have been presented out there. There's no real follow-up. I haven't seen anything with police and so forth. So it could be questionable. But the person at hand of that story was somebody, again, it's not about being divisive. I'm not anti-immigrant, even though I will talk about migration, immigration, and the things, again, when we talk about we as the indigenous Aboriginals, Tasha's indigenous, Neejies, Moor, Black Americans, all the umbrellas, this is our land. And so it's going to be only right that we try to preserve what is ours when we are seeing that there's something that is manifesting right before our eyes, and we can pick and choose whether we see it or not. But as time goes on, we all going to realize what's going to happen. But again, this is the most hated show in the black corner of YouTube. Now, this sister here based on some of the advice that was said about what happened with that woman that was in Houston, about getting involved when you seeing situations, she tried that. Now, hers was back in Memorial Day, so that means that happened before that situation. But the again, back and forth, the bantering back and forth about whether black men won't stand up for black women and so forth and so on, right? And we lost that momentum that we had postured based on what happened with Alabama. Then we went back, we regressed a little bit. Now, again, I don't take everything on social media to be everything outside, but it does have a pulse. It does resonate. There's many people who use on the day-to-day basis of social media to interact and to pick up information, to have conversations. So there is some relevancy to social media. Now, when you see a sister like that happen, people didn't even go out their way because why? We're more sympathetic to other people than our own selves, right? A lot of people didn't pick up the story, and if they did, it was very mum's the word. It didn't go viral, none of that. But a sister seen a situation with two men, and the sister name is Dawnay Wilbur. She's now deceased, and WeUpReport give our condolences to her and her family and so forth. She was 27 years old, on the way to go hang out with her friends, and happened to see two men and a woman. I guess the two men were going to get in about the woman, and she got out of her vehicle to go intervene to stop what happened. Now, Good Samaritan, we understand all that, but then we have to realize, again, as we go on to Aboriginals of another name, do we put ourselves in a situation where it's detrimental to ourselves and ours as a people? Do we allow other people, to eat and we not eat, to take over and just be a doormat, being a good Samaritan, have a good heart to be able to say, oh, I'm not racist. Like many people love to say, oh, I'm not racist. You were never racist. You on the defense. You like in chess. You're the black piece on the chessboard. You move second. You're never the initiator, no matter how much you want to think, but you're in the defense position. So to make yourself feel good psychologically, you have to say, I'm not racist. No, you're in the defense position, though. And so with that being said is, we, in some way, like eating a steak that got too much fat, got to cut the fat off. And cutting that fat off is just unifying in itself. So again, as I said earlier, unification may not be global, may start at home. We're talking about in the house where you live at, and then community, then state, then nation, right? Not saying that we against other people and that their problem are not somewhat similar to ours, but I don't think it is, because we in our own house. And I want to talk about some things because I keep seeing people talk about certain things as to why other people are getting things and why you're not getting them. I'm going to say something that nobody won't explain to many in here, why other people are getting and you don't get, because you don't understand the game and nobody want to really tell the game. But you stay tuned. We're going to tread there. So is there ever a time where you cannot give up too much, or you're going to kill yourself? You get out your comfort of where you're going. It's okay to view something, to observe something. As you heard the brother that was the pastor in there was trying to give tips as to, observation is always good, right? Measuring something. Being a little apprehensive. Yes, we're to help our brother. Yes, we are our brothers and our sisters' keepers. But at a distance to where it don't become, well, maybe I'm taking my own life. And the situation maybe as a man might have been different, but as a woman, was that your... But getting involved, and then it ended up being tragic, and she ended up losing her own life. 27 years old. Many of us don't even get to get life, no matter how much older. A lot of us really You think about, we're trying to fight to get to life when you really think about it. We're not living, we're under somebody else. We are POWs, we are prisoners of war. We preoccupied by somebody else's agenda. So some of us literally believe because I have materials, I have cars, I have, homes and vacations and things like that, and numbers in my account, that somehow I'm free. Are you? We're going to find out, because see, as I said earlier, they will give the title to Aboriginals in Australia, but are there Aboriginals all around this place that we call Earth? And then to hone it in and put it in the scope, what about here in this United States? We know there's a story told about some people who supposedly had traversed here, came here, been here, lived on the land here, became recognized here, live on reservations here. But if you're avid watching this show, we done showed you what that which, let's say, regulates that, has put out the manifesto showing that in itself is not real. It's just an organization of people who politically and culturally bind themselves through some club. So that really excludes them from being considered Aboriginals. So that means they're not Aboriginal. These are some people who even in their story telling how they traverse, come, set up shop, and been here since then, and said they've been here for thousands of years and still was no civilization. when according to the game that say when somebody came, they had no civilization. They built nothing, but they said they've been here that long. So that excludes them from that conversation. Then we're going to show that some people have said some things as to who it could be. But in this case here, this young sister here, we extend ourselves beyond the fact to the fact we're going to kill ourselves for somebody else's gratification? That's what we got to ask ourselves. Do we got to stop being my brother and my sister's keeper? We seem to extend ourselves for other people, but when we find some things of minute importance to get it bickering at one another for things that don't have no real importance, because we lose sight of the real big picture. So hold that thought. So let me take you over here, and we're going to get into the Aboriginal. Because a lot of people like to they like to put the African on us, right? It's like the brother that was just up in here. What was his name again? What was that brother name in here? What's his name? Shah Sun, you still in here? That's what Shah Sun said to me at the beginning, y'all. He may still be, he may not be in here. He said, y'all ain't Abos. Okay? Right? Okay. Y'all ain't Abos. That's what he said, right? Okay. All right. I never understood that if they say self-determination, you can self-identify, why do other people get mad at you for something that you want to identify yourself as? If you know who you are, that's fine. But how can you say for certainly that somebody ain't who they is? Unless you know them personally. It's just something you hold, it's something that you harbor, something that, again, maybe you under a program that you have not seen through yet. Maybe you haven't dug deep enough. If you really want to know, have you dug deep enough? If you dug or dig deep enough, you might change that, because there was a time in this country, and those of us who've been around at least half a hundred or so back, we know that somebody was the ultimate liar. That, what do they say, like Pinocchio, right? Cheto and Pinocchio, they just lied everything, right? Did that ever change? But some of you brand new, just getting here yesterday under a different program, you may see life a little bit different. And it may be that's the way your perception is. Some of us have been around a little longer, we know a little bit longer. But in time, you may find out that everything ain't glitter, ain't gold, and everything that's said to be true might be a lie. So, just like this here, is there a reason for them showing this. Now check this out. Be right back. Is there a reason for this?
Residents of Nairobi, Kenya experienced an earthquake-like movement at exactly 10:27 p.m. yesterday, which is the 28th of April 2023.
There was a light earthquake which was felt in various towns in the country earlier this evening.
This all links to Africa splitting into two continents. Africa is slowly but surely tearing into two. Like anything in geology, it's an extremely long process that will take millions of years, but it will eventually see part of East Africa chip off from the rest of the continent, likely resulting in a new ocean arising between the two land masses. The colossal breakup is associated with the East African Rift System, one of the largest rifts in the world that stretches downward for thousands of kilometers through several countries in Africa, including Ethiopia, Kenya, the Democratic Republic of Congo, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Zambia, Tanzania, Malawi, and Mozambique. This rift system means that African plate is splitting into two plates, the smaller Somalian plate and the larger Nubian plate, that are pulling away from each other at a super sluggish pace of millimeters per year. Back in 2018, news of a crack emerging in Kenya went viral, with many claiming that this was evidence of Africa snapping into two before our very eyes. Why this startling scene was related to the East African Rift System. As some scientists reported at that time, this was likely just a highly localized expression of the valley's regular rifting activity. The East African Rift System has been in this current process for around 25 million years ago, and the crack in Kenya was an indirect whisper of what's occurring on the continent. However, in another 5 million to 10 million years, changes in the East African Rift System could result in a drastically different looking world. Around this time frame, we are likely to see a new ocean from between the Somalian plate and the Nubian plate. The great continent of Africa will lose its eastern shoulder, and a vast sea will cut off East Africa. As strange as this may seem, it's worth remembering that Earth's surface is in a constant state of flux. It's just so slow that human experience can't account for it. The appearance of the world as we know is relatively new. The land and sea we see today of Eurasia, the Americas, Africa, Antarctica and Oceania are the product of the vast tectonic plates that slot together like a jigsaw puzzle. Very slowly, however, these jigsaw pieces move around on a time scale of millions of years. Just think of the split up that the Earth saw around 138 million years ago when South America and Africa divided. If you look at the west coast of Africa and the east coast of South America, you will notice they fit together like two jigsaw pieces, beautifully highlighting how these continents were once joined as one. The departure of East Africa will just be another page in this giant geological storybook. Who knows whether humanity will be around to see any of these changes, but it doesn't look too.
Ever heard of the term Pangea, right? Pangea, right? So it looked like that's, according to what they're saying, right? That there's a African split happening from an earthquake that they had talked about back in, that happened in Kenya in Nairobi. And they said that the continent is splitting into two, right? And as you heard in that story there, they talked about how really that's 5 to 10 million years from now. Ain't none of us gonna be here, right? None of us. We all gonna be probably not even in the thoughts. You get what I'm saying? Like we never did even exist. So the point I want to make on here as we go into this Aboriginal by another name is, okay, so if the continent, as they're trying to portray at this moment, is splitting, and the ironicness of that is, you know, when they say Africa, you know, there's always been this big debate about Africa and when did the continent of Africa be named, right? And then, you know, if you read the Stanley Poole book of the Moors of Spain, they talk about in 1345 around in Tunisia, where the Romans came in the province and called that area there, they called that Africa, right? That was the one time, and then you had the story of Cyprico Africanus, and then they also had that they showed in the demarcation of a map. And let me show you what I'm talking about here. They showed that a map that they had in about 1555. Let me show y'all this map of Africa about 1555, right? You might be able to see this good. You may not be able to see it real good, right? But I'm going to highlight and show you the two spots that they show Africa on the map in 1555, because why? They had no knowledge of the interior of Africa. Keep that in mind. They had no knowledge of the interior of the continent we call today Africa. But as you see on those highlights I got there, Africa would have been up on that northern part and down on where you see that would be like South Africa today. Ironically, that they're talking about this Eastern African rift, it's about, if you cut that, that's look like it's about what it's cutting into, right? Right? Look, let me show again. Right? You see that split there? That's about what they cutting and splitting with, right? They cutting it, right? Is it of nature? Is that nature? Or is that somebody else? Because if you go look on your map, like if you go on your Google map, you're going to see it says that Victoria, I don't know if that's river, lake, or something there, but it's right in the center of that, and all of that around it has been ate up. So it's going to sink and move, and that's going to allow this split to happen. So I said, ironic, huh? Really? Okay. But I'm wondering, why are you today telling us something that you said that probably is going to manifest itself 5 to 10 million, years from now? Why are you selling that now? Why are you talking about that now? Why now? You know what I'm saying? Is that planting the seed? Now, those of you who are avid watchers over here, remember we did the show again, as I said early in the intro here, about Utsi man, right? Remember they found in Europe the oldest bones that even predates Lucy, they saying, but they haven't confirmed and specified it yet. And they say that the European, and they said, but we don't, that necessarily mean the pale-skinned man will be the one. We understand it's always going to be of a melanated person, but they're using the demarcation of Europe as who they talking about. And so what I'm saying is, okay, so now you say 5 to 10 million years from now, there's a possibility of a split. So would that part of the continent be still Africa? Will that be named something else? And the people that'll be there won't be African, they're going to be something else. And then the people, you get what I'm saying? So, okay, so if that should happen in 5 to 10 million years, again, I don't understand why today in 2023, you're talking about something that ain't going to manifest to 5 to 10 million years from now. I guess it could be just information that people say, oh, that's what a big split. And that's it. Okay, but they said that there's those tectonic plates that somebody could be tampering with, right? They said it's going to, the plates that'll be in the Somali plates, and they're talking about the Nubian plates, right? That they're splitting and causing that rift. And ironically, that rift, as I said, the East Valley Rift is the same place near Hadar, Ethiopia, where they found Lucy. Where they found Lucy at? Ironic coincidence? Or is they planted the seed for later down the line, Lucy is not going to be who y'all think Lucy is. And that segment part of the continent, they're going to get to claim it. They're going to put their flag on their moon on that. Could it be? Well, if this video is still around 5 to 10 million years from now, maybe I'll be like, see, I told you so. But they ain't going to be around. We know, they know that they ain't going to be here. But anyway, but that being said, right? So meaning that, will that part of the continent be named Africa? Or is it going to be named something else? And that means that when people are residing other places after migration, do they still get to call themselves Africans? And if you move before it was even named Africa, are you an African, even though it might be Africa today, but if you had left the continent before then, Are you still considered that, or are you just talking about people? Or are we talking about location? What are we talking about here? We Boogie in the house. What's good, bro? I had been asking about you because I know last time I haven't heard from you when they had that earthquake in California, because I believe you in California, if I do remember. I always wondered, I was like, man, what's up with that brother We Boogie? I hope he all good. Glad to see you here, sir. Glad to see you here, right? So yeah, with that being said, so can you be migrated somewhere else and still be, why do people still try to hold on to somebody who done migrated and keep you there? Or is that just the way it's supposed to be? All right, let's see. Because on this Aboriginal part we're going to get into, as I said, first existing. He first existing somewhere. So I got another message here. Yes, sir, have been in, okay. Oh, been in commerce. Okay. Been in commerce. Okay. You've been in business. I'm saying business. Okay. Anyway. All right. I'm glad to see you here, bro. I ain't been seeing We Boogie, so I was wondering, was you all good? Because I know last time, right before that earthquake that happened over there, I wasn't sure what area you was part of, but I had thought about you. Again, those who be over here, even though you may not see me and I know your name and we correspond back and forth, I remember you. You understand? So don't think I don't. But I'm glad to see you here, though, bro. Okay, so with that being said, so again, 5-10 million years they set and planting the seed for what they're trying to do. So, all right. So who gonna be the Aboriginal then? Will it still be those of Ethiopia? When that new split come, will they be considered, and will that still be considered Africa? Or are they gonna name that piece of this African Pangea and call it something else? And then so people now going back and tracing their people, will you be able to say you from there, or you want on that part and not on this part, right? Okay, I guess we won't. None of us will be here to see that. But the point I want to make is, as I move to the next one, because again I want to take you now over to Australia, where they're having a dialogue about Aboriginals of Australia and the fact that they don't, again, there's a parallel between what's happening in Australia and those of us, African American, Black Americans, Tacitus Digits, Niji, Moors, those we call Black American umbrella term. We know from a law standpoint, for those who are particular about that, but we know what we're talking about. We, again, from different understandings and levels, to me, everybody the same. So those a little bit too, kundala and too educated in the law, you may not accept your brother that's Black. I accept my brother that's Black. I accept my brother that's Moor. I accept my brother that's Niji. I accept my brother and sister of all ilks of cuts. Because it's not about what you call yourself, it's who we are, right? And I think we get lost in them. We get into those particulars and we try to, and some people get out here and they want to, get on bullhorns and try to make us seem like, something wrong with us because of the ideology you hold. But that don't change under, because again, I'm going to show you that in this country, there's only one game. In this country, there is only one game. And I'm going to tell y'all something today that probably nobody don't really want to say openly and outwardly. I'm going to tell you what it is. There's only one game in this land. And when you don't fall under that, you got to ask yourself, this may answer why we haven't been getting nothing. See, nobody's going to say it because they don't want to admit to it. But once I show you and tell it, you're going to understand. You're going to realize, oh, maybe there's some truth to what he's saying. So anyway, let's go into this. Let's listen to this conversation that was having on the about the Aboriginals, and they talking about our voice, and they talking about giving them my advisory board, and just kind of hear this, and then I'm gonna come back and give me my what they said, breakdown, and be right back. Check this out. Listen to this. Be right back.
You say it will divide the nation. Why?
Of course it does. Of course it does, because some people with Aboriginal ancestry, they get different political rights than everyone else. How does that not divide people? You're going to be asking people for proof of their identity before they have a particular say. You're going to be denouncing some people as not representing Aboriginal people. And it's just, the whole thing strikes me as in itself divisive. And it's so unnecessary.
Shireen, you're the constitutional lawyer. How does giving Aboriginal people rights to a separate representative body not amount to an additional right?
Well, I prefer to be pragmatic and realistic rather than ideological about it. The current state of affairs is that Parliament and government do make Indigenous-specific laws and policies, like the Native Title Act, like Indigenous heritage protection laws, like closing the gap measures. And the constitutional reality is that Parliament has a specific constitutional power that it only has ever used in relation to Indigenous people. So prior to 1967, the race power was never used. After the 1967 referendum, it was only ever used with respect to Indigenous affairs. All this is saying is that Indigenous communities on the ground, as Dean says, should have a voice when Parliament makes laws and policies about them. I don't see that as divisive. I see that as bringing Australians closer together, because don't forget, Indigenous people were explicitly excluded from the Constitution to begin with. This is including them in the Constitution. It's about inclusion, not separatism.
Jacinta, this seems to be the strongest argument, that the Constitution gives the federal government powers to make special laws for Indigenous people. Therefore, shouldn't it listen to them?
Well, I think when it comes to dealing with Indigenous issues, we're starting from the wrong place, because we're assuming that just because one is Indigenous, that they're automatically at a disadvantage. I mean, I'm sitting here with myself, with Dean. We're not disadvantaged because we're Indigenous. And my argument has always been about serving the Australian people on the basis of need. Now, the most marginalised Indigenous Australians in this country are those whose first language is not English, who often don't have the education, the same level of education as someone like myself and Dean has, who therefore don't have the opportunity to articulate particularly those needs. Now, it's argued that this voice model is supposed to give them a voice, but they have existed. The bureaucracies have existed to serve them, but the bureaucracies have largely lived off the back of their misery. And so I don't trust that this mechanism is about serving them. And again, it suggests that all Indigenous people are somehow marginalised, and that doesn't actually solve our problems for us. And I don't see how there's a guarantee that this is about to do that.
Dean, you're charged with trying to convince people about the merits of an Indigenous voice. How can you convince people if many Australians, like Andrew and Jacinta, think that this will actually divide us?
Well, when you actually listen to Australians from all walks of life, which I've had the great privilege of doing over the last 5 years, since the Uluru Statement from the Heart was presented through this campaign, there is a deep well of goodwill from Australians across the country towards Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, and towards this issue in particular. People, they might not necessarily understand the statistics, they might not necessarily read all the closing the gap reports that are presented year after year, but they've got a sense that things aren't right for far too many Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, as the Senator has said, in particular in remote communities, and that it's time to do something different. It's time for a change. And they're very much animated by this idea of wanting to see practical change on the ground. We've tried many other solutions in the past. We cannot just keep doing what we've done in the past. The status quo is a bit broken in that regards, and the voice is the most practical thing we can do. As the Senator says, giving a voice to those people that need it most, that have been ignored, overridden, sidelined and marginalised by the bureaucrats, by the politicians. It's time we listen to those mob, because that's where the solutions lie.
Can I pick you up on that? Like, Shireen has worked for the Cape York initiative of Noel Pearson, right? Now, that shows us that we have been consulting. No one has been consulted more than Noel Pearson. Over an 8-year period, he got $150 million from the taxpayer for his initiative. There's also, in that area, $120 million fund that comes from Rio royalties, right, for 3,000 people. There's a huge amount of money, huge amount of consultation, and that didn't work. And it's not because there's a lack of an obligation in the Constitution to consult. They're consulting. In fact, we have, more than 30 big land councils. We have a council that peaks representing 70 Aboriginal organisations, big ones that consulted all the way through with Scott Morrison. You've got 11 people in Parliament identifying as Aboriginal. You've got 2,700 Aboriginal corporations. There is no shortage of consultation, and we've done it before with ATSI, with the Aboriginal Advancement League.
What about
consultation is not the issue.
What about the point that something needs to change? We surely
something
don't
needs to
accept,
change.
We surely don't accept
this.
Can I pick you up on that, Anthony? You've got to give me a chance to pick you up on that. Let's be honest. Noel Pearson is one of the most famous people in Australia. Okay, he can pick up the phone to past prime ministers. Now, I am sorry, your ordinary person out in Arakoon or Wadeye cannot. So ad hoc consultation that privileged Indigenous leaders get to do now is not enough. That's the point.
But my point is,
it's not enough to empower the people who are truly not heard.
My point is, with all the consultation he did get and all the self-administration, all the autonomy he did get, the results in Arakoon, with all that money, and Cape York, the other three communities, have been atrocious. They've been appalling. They've been
we don't want to make it
it's
about
not
that
consultation.
example. But
that's my point.
The other point about consultation, though, Jacinta, I'd like to get your point on this, is firstly, it's always been informal. There's been Indigenous advisory boards to Labor and Liberal governments, basically handpicked by prime ministers. The difference with the voice, to me, one of the key differences is Aboriginal people themselves will get to choose who will represent them.
So what?
Well,
They can do it right now.
No, let's speak to this, because Aboriginal organisations will get to pick those voices. And this is where our failures lie, because we know that nepotism has existed for a long time. We know that there's a lot of Aboriginal people who don't have faith in Aboriginal organisations. We know that there's favouritism that has gone on. And to me, this is going to fall straight back into that trap of favouritism. And if you look at the consultation in terms of the Uluru Statement to the Heart, a big hunk that is ignored were the dissenting voices who didn't agree with that process, who weren't part of that process. It's not a legitimate representation of Indigenous people, but it has been sold to the Australian people that this is what all Indigenous people want, because Indigenous people are often co-opted, certainly by Labor, even by the unions and by organisations, to appear as though they get behind and they support these propositions. But we're not recognised as individuals in our own right, like all other Australians are, and we're lumped in a group based on our race, and this is another one of those exercises.
Dean, I want to get you to respond to that. No form of representation.
Back, right? I think we back, right? We back, right? All right. So that was the conversation that I had seen on this voice debate, and they were talking about the Aboriginals of Australia. Now, I want to make a parallel between what's happening in Australia and then look up here in this United States that we live, for those of you who live in the United States, right? And the Americans in particular. But again, who is the Aboriginals in the United States? Is there Aboriginals? Is the story that they done told everybody, is it exact in fact? Right? We do have several stories here, right? And then there's the story that everybody who came here recently, and then there's the story of somebody who was forcibly brought here, and then there's one that said it came from the Bering Straits. But was there ever Aboriginal people here? According to some that has said, they said there's people who they seen, right? So we're going to try to see if we can figure out who that is, right? Who is the Aboriginal by another name, right? So as you heard in this conversation, they're talking about Indigenous voice in Parliament to change, they say what? The Constitution. Constitution. Think about that here, United States. They talk about if they thought about changing the Constitution to eradicate the ills of the past, to make them amends for that. Do you think they would ever do that? That in itself is probably a threat, just even mentioning that, correct? So you have, as the people you see on the panel there, got a director, a constitutional lawyer, and one is also a columnist, the white dude there. He's a columnist, And as you see her name, she claims to be of Aboriginal descent. Her name is Jacinta Price. What was that, her, right? That one here, right? So according to her, she says that you don't lift the oppressed group by treating them differently and you don't favor them, right? So her, as claiming to be an Aboriginal of Australia, as you look at her, right? Now, again, we only can look at the exterior. I know some people say, well, they have the indigenous bloodline and so forth. Okay, well, we see the exterior of you, right? And we can see that the faintness of what melanin is, there may be some other prongs and lines, possibly, right? And we don't understand all the politics that goes on in when it comes to those in Australia, so-called Aborigines, as they call them, or the Aboriginals, right? But she claims to be one. And so you don't lift the oppressed group by treating them differently and you don't favor them. What is the purpose of being an Aboriginal to a land? Is it a priority? Are there some benefits to it? When I come to your house, am I equal to you in your own house? Am I able to just go in your fridge, take your last beer, homie? Sleep in the bed with your wife? No, there's some boundaries, right? There's some things I'm not privy to, right? But why is it that people don't like to respect the fact that certain priorities are given to that who it belongs to? And then I'm going to show you, as history has shown, that a game somebody else plays never would allow you to have equal footing, based on just the ways a game is played that many of you may not have known or ever heard of. But stay tuned, we will talk about that, right? So she goes on, she said, as far as she is concerned, we are all Australian people. We shouldn't be divided on the lines of race, right? That sounds good, right? But wait a minute, they the Aboriginals of the land. Again, you're the black piece in chess. Why do many people on the black piece of the chessboard always want to be in a position to say, well, I'm not? No, you in defense first. You're defense to offense, not offense to defense. Let me say that one more again for those slow in the back. You're on the defense to offense, not the offense to defense. That means you are always in the defensive position that what somebody is putting on you. And so with that being said, it sounds good, it's politically correct. But if somebody has priority, somebody got seniority, am I entitled to share that? Or do you have to trick me into, again, as Esau and Jacob, to trick me with a bowl of soup for my birthright? Let me say that one more again. Like the story of Jacob and Esau in the Bible, do you have to give me a bowl of soup to trick me out of my birthright? Racial lines. Did we create that? Could the Aboriginal people be the one that created the racial lines? Why would we need to be racial lines if, let's say, in the origin of the beginning of all creations, and if they say melanin was the beginning of all creations, why would there be a racial line? So that means somebody who felt they was at a disadvantage had to create race to make an advantage. And then to get you psychologically to look at it at a disadvantage is one and the other one in a more better position. Well, the construct of race, right? Right? So we are all Australians in this together. Okay? Again, just like those who tenement is Pan-African, right? All black people, regardless where you are, we need to pull ourselves by our bootstraps. We have to become one, unification, all that. Sounds good in theory and all that. But in application, we have to look at that based on history, based on what has happened over people over time. Everybody's mindset is not going to be the same. It's like we here in the United States versus people who newly coming in here, maybe have a generation or two, and we've been here 10, 12, 15 generations. We're not going to see this the same. We're not going through the same ordeal the same. So I don't expect you to have the same fight as I got. And I think a lot of our people don't even understand that. You expecting people who are, well, let me give you this again. This is no knock. Don't take this in no way. If you should happen to be this as you, don't take this or not. Just listen to what she's saying and be right back. Listen to this.
Some people want to sit there and fight all day, but other people actually want to raise their children and they don't want to spend their life fighting. Do you get that? Do you understand that? No, you don't? Okay. Immigrants, go back to your country. I love the idea, like that is what people do. Immigrants, go back to your country. I love the idea, like that is what people do. Your entire country is based off of people that fled. Do you get that? Do you understand that? No, you don't? Okay. Like that is what people do. They flee. If it ain't working out there and the oppression is way too bad, they flee for better opportunities. I love the idea of better opportunities. Immigrants do is flee away from danger. I love the idea of blame to something. Do you get that? Do you understand that? No, you don't? Okay. Spend their life fighting. Do you get that? Do you understand that? No, you don't? Okay. They flee. If it ain't working out there, they flee. I love the idea of they flee. And the oppression is way too bad, they flee. They flee for better opportunities. Some people want to sit there and fight. I love the idea of they, but other people actually want to raise their children. I love the idea of they flee. Because there's this mentality that there's a claim to something. Immigrants do is flee away from danger. I love the idea of go back to your country, but your entire country is based off of people that fled. Like that is what people do. They flee. If it ain't working out there and the oppression is way too bad, they flee. They don't want to spend their life fighting. Do you get that? Do you understand that? No, you don't? Okay. Like immigrants do is flee away from danger because there's this mentality that there's a claim to something. Some people want to sit there and fight all day, but other people actually want to raise their children and they don't want to spend their life fighting. Do you get that?
Okay, so we back, right? Now, that is some of the mentality of many of the people. So when you who have a long lineage in this land and come from people from generation upon generation upon generation, you should not be expecting somebody who is fleeing from their country, from persecution, refugeeism, asylum seeking, and think that somehow they're going to be in the same fight with you. There's a myth that we tell amongst each other when we say that our people fought for immigrants to get the rights. Let me say that one more again. Take a picture, record. I said it. Those people, there's a myth out here that says that we fought for immigrants' rights in this country. We, Black Americans, touching indigenous Moors, the people from the southeastern part that we call down south, that somehow we fought for these people. No, we did not. We did not, y'all. The game was already set for them to come here. Stay tuned. You're going to find out. It was already set that way. So when you hear somebody say that, it's not true. It's not true because you got to understand what, since being POWs in this land, and once it was set up, there's only two statuses. One is white man, and the other is everybody else that's what? Stay tuned, right? So you can't expect that. So when you sit there and you be doing that, and you put them prioritized and all that stuff, listen what she said. If it get too bad, they'll flee. They're not there to fight. They get out. That's not ours. We don't have a place to seek asylum. We don't have a place to run to. This is the only home and land we know of, and many of us gonna die here. There's somebody fleeing, but they now are double backing because they finding that they're going to other places and come to find out the politics and stuff going over there. You didn't sign up for that. So back home don't seem too bad after all. But don't pay no attention to me though, right? So just asking for an advisory voice in their affairs, especially when policy were pertaining to them, right? So they want to give them an advisory board so they can have somebody who they can I guess, have counsel with, ideas that they want, presented to them, and they present it to Parliament, and whether they be granted or not. Think about that, right? You the Aboriginals. Why do you need somebody else? Why do I need somebody else when it's my shit? It's my shit. I don't need you. But the Esau Jacob story, somehow I've been tricked from a bowl of soup, and somebody got my birthright a hostage and clubbed you over the head, gave you amnesia, and when you woke up, you were somebody else, and they gave somebody else in the place of you. Okay. Stay tuned. Most hated show on the Black Corner Internet. All right? Go to WeUpReport, subscribe, help me to get to 1,000 over there. That's the way you can help me also as well. WeUpReport, go over there, subscribe. I'm at 20 right now. Thought I would get a little bit more, but it's all good. Do it when they do it, right? And for those of you who like that brother 0620, if you'd like to do some little donation, we always in need over here because we got things that we're fighting always in the background that y'all know nothing about, but eventually you will hear about. So, with that being said, all right. So you don't supposed to be expecting these people like that because you under a different fight. Now, let's look some of this, right? So they need an advisory board to have somebody to present to them. It's kind of like when we say we had people that's supposed to be representing us. Think about it like this. We have people that's supposed to represent you in legislation and government, right? It's the same thing as like an advisory board. They go in there supposed to be just, but because of they're outnumbered, they can't get nothing passed. So it seems like we just send people up there to just be an empty suit that don't get nothing done. Right? And then you have people sitting here who try to argue back and forth. Oh, you are on the Democrats. We need to be Republicans, right? As if like there's really a difference. You think there's a difference? Oh, you said the ideology that they hold. Right? You say what they believe. I believe the same like they do, but it ain't the same agenda. Stay tuned. I'm gonna show you. I ain't gonna tell you about what I heard. I'm gonna tell you what I know. I'm gonna tell you what I ain't gonna tell you what I heard. I'm gonna tell you what I know. Right? So they talk about how when they say dealing with the gap or closing the gap. You know, they say that shit here too. Talking about the generational wealth gap, right? They talk about that generational wealth gap. How is that ever gonna be? You're gonna ever, it's like watching, did y'all see Sha'Carri run that last race and how she came in 4th place? So if the race would have went on 200 meters, do you think even at the position she was, she still could have got first? It's possible. It's possible. But most likely, probably not. Or the person who was in last place at 200 meters, at the 100 meters, still being in the position they was, could ever get before Sharika get to the 200 meters? You think that's possible? I don't think it was possible. Some people believe that you can actually make that gap up over in what lifetime? But anyway. So that's what they're saying to them. They're telling them these things here. So look at what they're saying to them over there and look at what's being over here. And then we got to figure out who is the Aboriginal by another name. Who is that? Who is that really, right? So, they have to bring in, they have to bring the white tea guy in there. I got a message here. Let me see what I got in here, right? Mr. Blow Your Mind, what's happening? All right, what's good? Mr. Spencer, 0620, executive producer, always good brother, thorough brother. Glad to see you stop by. As always, thank you. Always. Glad to see you stop by. So you seen the white cat, right? The columnist, right? The newspaper guy. He's up there, right? And he says, this is what he said. He says fundamentally, this is racist, right? Repairing the Aboriginals is racist. It's okay to stay in that position and never to get out of it. But to get out of it is fundamentally racist. That he said, this one here, that's what he said, right? To have or be, he said they might have less input. If you allow them to be granted to get in the position, like say, creating a constitution so that they would be equal and added into it, to allow them to have more say about the positions of things that they need and to have them to be fruitioned, would be racist. No, what do you mean racist? Huh? Or they have too many rights. So being Aboriginal doesn't really, in some people's eye, you're not supposed to have any benefits. Because you would get all the benefits. But isn't it funny that you could be the Aboriginals and be at a disadvantage and be the last in everything, and everybody can come in and get, and they look at you as like something wrong with you, like, what's wrong with you? As if there's, again, like a glass ceiling. You can see where you want to go, you just quite can't get there. Something is prohibiting me, right? So he says, he also went into said that he said he don't think it would be right that what their ancestors did, that what their ancestors did, and that to make these things right and then put them at a disadvantage, that's racist. So wait a minute. So you've been disadvantaged all this time. You've been held back all this time. You never got to be able to use your Aboriginal as the people to right and hold as sovereign of the land. No, but now to give you some of that is racist. He says it doesn't work. He said what's already set in that Constitution is permanent, need not to be fixed. All they're going to do is make it more divisive. Listen to what I'm saying, y'all. A mug is saying, okay, in the Constitution says you ain't part of this. You can't get nothing in this. It's solely everything, but not dealing with you. And so now you're trying to say, well, let's try to do something to make them. Let's give them advisory board. But guess what? To fix it is to make amends and put you in a position that might. He goes on talking about apartheid. He said, you might create apartheid, and there'll be a disadvantage. But it's okay for us to be in a disadvantage. It's okay for them to be in a disadvantage. Anybody around the world who is considered the Aboriginals, originals of those landmass, to be at a disadvantage, and that to even the playing field, to make the balance of the scale is not to be right. We have to keep it the way it's always been, and then let's just work from that position. Okay. Think about that, man. Huh? It will divide the nation. They'll get better politically rights than everyone else. Huh? But it's okay when the shoe's on the other foot. This is them over in Australia talking like that, right? That's what saying over there in Australia. So make the bridge and come here. As we're gonna figure out who's the Aboriginal by another name here. Who is that? Right? I'll put that back on. Put that up on the screen. Yeah, we got that up there. That's fine. Yeah, So it's kind of crazy, right? That people can see things, know that they're wrong, but they really don't want to make a wrong or right. They want to do it at a pace that there's really no progress in it. For whose advantage? So there is no benefit in their eyes to being an Aboriginal, but you got to understand how they got that, where that came from. They talked about how the Constitution gives special powers to grant indigenous people laws should it listen to them. Wait a minute, think about that. The Constitution gives special powers to grant indigenous people. Wait a minute, the Constitution. See, that's been sold to us. The Constitution ain't our contract. That's somebody else's contract. Inside that contract, it's the Esau-Jacob story. I'm going to show you something. Slow up. I'm going to show you something. So they say a misconception is that indigenous people are at a disadvantage. And she was sitting there as an indigenous. Now, this woman here, this Jacinta. Let me show you her. She's saying that there's this misconception, this myth, right? Put her on there again. Yeah, her. She said there's a myth. That there's a myth that Aboriginal people are at a disadvantage, and she's one. You know what she's talking about? I'm educated. I'm doing well. I'm sitting here, right? We have a lot of my own people do the same thing. Look at us. We pulled ourselves out bootstrap. Y'all in here as victims. As long as I can use you, it's like a lemon. A lemon is as only good as the juice I can get out of it. When it ain't no more for me to get out of it, what I'm going to do with it? I'm going to discard it. So as long as you got some juice for me to squeeze out your ass, not pause, right? Pause, right? Then I can use it. But the minute I can't get nothing out of it, I'm going to discard it and get a new one. Okay. So the misconception, say her, and then he said about him. He probably won too. This guy here. Now look at these people here. Do they look Aboriginal to y'all? He Aboriginal to y'all too? Don't look Aboriginal to me. Now, I'm not saying that maybe you're not, again, over time and things, and okay, you got some family members. Kind of like when we did the indigenous DNA, and it said you can be indigenous blood, but still not be part of what it said, the organization, the group, right? You can have indigenous, like Mr. Spencer 620, Cherokee, but not recognized by them, but yet still Cherokee, right? Because they not on the list. So is that's what we're seeing here? Is that what they are? They might be, they claiming something, but they on the list for some odd reason, somewhere in their land. They might be on the list. So anyway, I just want to make this parallel to what's happened over there in Australia and the conversation that they were having, because it's kind of similar to here. But the problem is we don't know who is the indigenous by another name in this land. We don't know who it is. Y'all remember when I did the story about this individual here, right? Remember this? Take that down from there, right? Remember Alabama Senator Scott Beeson apologized for calling black people Aborigines? Remember that? Anybody remember that? Right? That a state senator accidentally called black people Aborigines, and they chewed his ass up, got rid of him up out of his seat, and he is no longer. That's him right here. Let me show you what he look like, right? Let me show you what he look like, right? That was him, right? That's what he said, right? And they made him go on tour and apologize and all that. No. I don't know what I was doing. I had a mental fart, relapse, amnesia. Then they flipped it and saying that the word Aborigines is kind of like saying the word nigger, right? Maybe, it's the worst word and he need to apologize, but that ain't, no, what was so bad about that, right? Or was it, did he do like, what's his name again? I'll say that analogy again, which was, what was his name? What's his name? When he said he stood on the balcony with Martin and he moved so they could get a clear shot. Remember him? Yeah. Well, that's what happened with Scott Beeson when he slipped up and said blacks is Aborigines. That's something that should never come out of their mouth because they act like there is no such thing as an Aborigine in this land, right? So with that being said, right? With that being said, so we got to figure out who is the Aborigine by another name. So, just recently, right? Because I see a lot of our people who are saying things like, we can't get nothing. The requirements of things that you have to do is a lot harder than other people who just getting here, right? They just got here, and somehow they're able to, get ahead of the line. And you, as the person of, long generations, can't get stuff. Well, there must be a reason for that. I got something going on over here. Something is going straight haywire over here. I can probably do what it did last time. It'll cut me all the way out. May do it. If it do, y'all, it's not me. It's something that happened over here because it looked like it's doing it again. I can't control that part there. I'm trying to. So okay, let me show you what just recently came out about this here. About the federal judge declares DACA illegal again. Issue something likely to be decided by the Supreme Court. Now, let me show y'all something here. Hold on one second here. Because I got this thing here is trying to cut me out. It's trying to cut me out. But we're going to fight it. Let's see if we can get this right. Hold on, y'all. 1 second. 1 second, because we the most hated, right? All right, so let me show. So this was in Houston, Texas, right? It said a federal judge on Wednesday had declared illegal a revised version of the federal policy that prevents the deportations of hundreds of thousands of immigrants brought to the United States as children. He declined to order an immediate end to the program and the protections it offered to recipients. United States District Judge Andrew Hannon agreed with Texas and 8 other states suing to stop the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, or they call DACA program. The judge ruling was ultimately expected to be appealed to the United States Supreme Court, sending the program fate before the High Court for a third time. Yeah, I said that. A third time. Not once, not twice, 3 times. Did y'all know that? This is the 3rd time. I don't know, something is going on here. Mad time. They trying to really knock me out, but okay, we're gonna deal with it. So it says, while sympathetic to the predicament of DACA recipients and their families, this court has expressed its concern about the legalities of the program for some time. Hannah wrote in a 40-page ruling, the solution for these deficiencies lies with the legislators, not the executive or judicial branches. Congress, for any number of reasons, has decided not to pass DACA-like legislation. The executive branch cannot usurp the power bestowed on Congress by the Constitution, even to fill a void. All right, y'all, it is really, I don't know what this is. There's something, there's someone, something, and it is really trying to do what it do. All right, let's see, maybe that might do it. All right, so it goes on and talks about how the solution for these beneficiaries lies with the legislature, not the executive or judicial branches. Congress, for any number of reasons, has decided not to pass DACA-like legislation. The executive branch cannot usurp the power bestowed on Congress by the Constitution, even to fill a void. Hannah's order extended the current injunction that had been in place against DACA, which barred the government from approving any new applications, but left the program intact for existing recipients during the ongoing legal review. Okay. Hannon also declined a request by the states to order the program in within 2 years. Hannon said his order does not require federal government to take any action against DACA recipients who are known as dreamers. Okay. And so they talk about how the DACA recipients in the lawsuit said it is ultimately to be up to the higher courts, including Supreme Courts, to rule on DACA's legality, whether Texas prove it has been harmed by the program. So the DACA program been in since Obama, and they've been stalling to deal with it since then. So it's been over 11 years. So let's just say that a person who came in the country during that particular time, let's say they came in with I don't know whether they came in solo, with parent. Let's say if they, I guess 16 could still be considered child, right? Child, 16, 17, let's say 16, 17. And been here, so 11 years. So that child would be about 27 now, and the baby would be about 11. So between 11 and 27, which that means some of them in them 20s might have families now, right? They might have families. And then you have the other situation going on, right? We're gonna touch all this because we got what's going on here, right? We gotta see what's going on here. And so that provision that they said that made it, the reason why they didn't destroy it entirely, and the reason why they said it was not legal is because there was a provision in the DACA version that needed to have something that was supposed to present it to the public and make a formal rule of the making of the process, which they didn't do it, which didn't go through Congress, kind of like it was executive order or went through without going through the proper procedure. So it made it illegal, is what they're saying. Now, we're not again, immigrant. We're not against anybody who is in a situation who don't have or don't need. We're not against that. Not at all. But you have some of our younger people out here becoming more homeless. They got nowhere to reside and live and work. And you have people who are able to use a facet of the game called government, whether it be seeking asylum and so forth, who are able to come and, they're benefiting. And it's like, where does ours, when they're in that situation, where do they go? You're in a situation, you're in limbo, but you don't know how you got in a limbo. But you stay tuned. I'm going to show you how you got in a limbo. How that all happened. How did the Esau Jacob, how did you, for a bowl of soup, one gave up your birthright and put you out of that situation, and now you're in limbo. And you have, again, as you heard maybe 2 shows ago, where I had a brother that was in here, I think his name was King Cooley, right? And he was a Moor. And I was talking about that situation that we talked about when it comes to correcting your status, right? So remember when I just told you a little earlier that we did not fight for the rights of immigrants coming in this land. They already had whatever they were going to get based on the simple fact that once you understand what the game is, and you still have, many of us have not figured out what the game is. You remember when I showed y'all about this? Remember when they had this out there, when they talked about how the flashback when they said Biden praised constant, unrelenting streams of immigration into the United States, right? That was back in 2015, right? And then I showed you the transcript of the conversation that it was talked about, right? Looking at me like, what he talking about? He said, looking for that secret that allows America to constantly be able to remake itself, like any other country in the world. I said, I can presume to tell you what's in the black box, Mr. President. I'm old enough now. I said, one is that there's, show on the screen before I read it, that there's a second thing in that black box, an unrelenting stream of immigration, nonstop. Folks like me who are Caucasian, of European descent, from the first time in 2017 will be an absolute minority in the United States of America. Absolute minority, fewer than 50% of the people in America from then on, and will be white European stock. That's not a bad thing. That's the source of our strength. Now, Biden, as vice president, were already telling you what was going to come happen, what was going to happen. There was going to be unrelenting flow of immigrants coming in this nation. Now, that's when he was vice president. Remember, his dude that he was vice president to had 2 terms, right? Trump came in after that, and now here's Biden back in again, right? And, you know, Trump tried to do what he tried to do when it come to dealing with it, right? So, now, DACA came in with Obama, and they try to end it with Biden. So let's look at listen to this that happened in Chicago. Listen to this. Be right back.
First of all the media that has come today to hear a message of truth. My name is Pastor Julie Contreras. That's JULIE-CONTRERAS, and I am with United Giving Hope, which is a non-for-profit organization that serves humanity beyond borders. Today, as a citizen of the United States of America, knowing how great our nation is, knowing how rich we are in many aspects, and knowing the values that we have as Americans, this is unacceptable, inappropriate treatment of human beings. And if we want to look at history in America and in general what has been taught to us, there was a leader in Germany years ago, and his name was Adolf Hitler. And he came into office for a few months, and he created concentration camps. This is not the exact same thing, but it's very much a parallel of taking human beings and telling them that they are less worthy of being allowed to simulate into our society. This is not the answer of herding them into a tent city. The cold will come soon, and we know all too well the cold that exists here in Chicago, the below zero weather that keeps us in our homes with heat and blankets and socks and clothes. I don't believe, as of today, that there is a tent that could be created that's going to defend people from the elements that will come to us in the next few months. There are so many abandoned buildings here in Chicago. Give the Venezuelan, Colombian asylum seekers a bucket, a mop, and a broom and soap, and they will mop and sweep and clean and create their homes inside of these abandoned buildings. We need to provide resources in the aspect of social services, not to make them dependent on the system, but to rehabilitate them so they can be a positive in our community and contribute to us. Migrating is natural, especially if you are fleeing imminent danger from your violent-ridden streets in Venezuela, Colombia, Mexico, and all the other countries that we see migrants coming from, even Russia, the Ukraine. This is the United States of America. And we're here today armed with peace and prayer to tell Mayor Johnson, we say no to a tent city. We are asking you to treat the asylum seekers with respect and dignity, or you, sir, are no better than the governor of Texas, or you, sir, are no better than the traffickers that have made money off the backs. The money that you are going to receive from the federal government will be given to your friends to build tents, or to your friends in the fancy hotels on Michigan Avenue, to organizations who are paying salaries, but none of that money ever comes to the base. Our organizations have created matrices. Today we have families standing with us here that are asylum seekers that we've taken off the street to rehabilitate them so that they can live a life of freedom and security, because all they're guilty of is coming to our country for a better life. Again, Mayor Johnson, we ask you to treat asylum seekers with respect and dignity. Now I'm going to bring forward two Venezuelan.
So we back. So okay, so here was they talking about in Chicago, they talking about the tent cities, right? They're gonna put the migrants that have come from Texas. Now you know why they came from Texas. Why New York and Chicago got a lot of migrants from Texas? Because why? Of the DACA. It was Texas and 8 other states. There were 8 other states that filed suit to actually get rid of DACA. And, you know, there was, let's see, what states were there? Let me tell you the states that that were part of them that relinquished it. They made it illegal in Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, Nebraska, South Carolina, West Virginia, Kansas, and Mississippi. Let me say that one more again. Texas, Alabama, Arkansas, Louisiana, Nebraska, South Carolina, West Virginia, Kansas, and Mississippi, right? And that's the ruling with DACA, which means they're going to overturn it, but they are holding just allowing the legal process, right? Now, you know, in the beginning of the intro there, it talks about what happened in Florida with the Dignity Act. Remember, they allowed them to be 7 years and to keep their assets and be able to work and so forth. Okay. Now, again, somebody cold, somebody hungry, you have extras, you'll give. You can, what you can, you'll help, right? That's just humanity. That's what people do when you got that kind of heart. As I said earlier, okay, when it comes to being detriment of your own, how much of a sacrifice are you willing to give? Some of us may look at it to give as a total sacrifice is the ultimate gift of hospitality. But then when we look at our own situations and our own peoples, now some of us are in different positions. Some of us don't know about struggle. Some of us have never really struggled. There's some people who never had to live under, you know, WIC or food stamps or housing or in the projects. And some of us ain't never had to do that. And there's some of us who have generations of that, right? And never really caught a break. Never really got that, let's say, gift in the genes that got them out of that perpetual hamster on the wheel. So find other avenues and other hustles to try to maintain and survive. But when the system is clamping down on the hustle and making it harder to hustle, and those ways that one used to do and are not now, and that is more technological. And matter of fact, you come out of some of the most poor schools in the country, so your education does not have no real quality. Yes, you have access to the internet and you can try to educate yourself as much as possible. But, you know, if you don't turn, again, the lemon into some lemonade, you just got some lemons in search of trying to make lemonade into some fruition. You could be like my channel here, been doing it for 11, 12 years. We can't make no money because that who regulates this said my message is not to be, well, let's say to expand, to become more of a mainstream. So what do people like myself do? Right? And people who fall under that, they become victims of the system. And so now the ways that used to be things that used to be avenues where you go here, let's say if you say, you know, they have places that day work, day labor. You can't do that because them all filled now too. You can't work at these places because them all filled now too. So what happens to you? And you say, well, wait a minute. According to what they define something is, I think I fall under this. We're going to get to that. Do you fall under that, right? And so these people who are able to take advantage of this situation that's coming to say a better life, what happens to the people who've been here from the inception? There ain't no better life. There's no refuge for them. And it becomes burdensome, but they watching everybody else get. What happens as time goes on? And then you have to ask yourself, why is that? And that's the part nobody answered. Why is that? Why does that? How did that become? What part of the game is this? And is there any remedy to change it? Well, you heard her say, as a person who is save humanity beyond borders, right? That's what she said. She's saving humanity beyond the borders. Everybody else got a place of refuge. Who does the Black American, African American, Indigenous, indigenous, Niji, Moor, where's your refuge in time of need? If my brother and my sister is not my keeper, what will be the future? Is there a future? Like watching the Africa and say 5 to 10 years they're gonna be, Africa will not be that no more. Well, we may not got 5 to 10 million years, but let's just say the next 100 years. So these people here seem to say they got demands. Now, it's one thing to say, I'm leaving because of persecution and seeking asylum, but they got demands. You know, like back in the day, we used to watch TV and used to have the hostage and they had the demands. They would hold the bank up, sit up in the bank, and then they would send food in and send a note back. I want $5 million with a helicopter. You know what I'm saying? Give me a straight pathway. And we'll get to Panama, right? We get the demands. And the police always try to, yeah, they got a plan. They're going to try to do the demand, but they got a plan for your ass, right? To capture your ass, right? But in this case, they got demands that saying, hold on, wait a minute. Yeah, you might be trying to do, give this tent city, and we don't think that's with dignity. I think they should get treated better than that. Wait a minute, what is that? Beggar, don't choosy with a beggar, right? You know, you can't be beggars, can't be choosy, right? You can't be choosy when you begging or asking. Mr. Blow, Mr. Smith, so 6, can you hit me off again? I need it, bruh. You get what I'm saying? What? Hey, I just hit. What? Now, you know what I'm saying? You can't do that again. You know, right? You can't be begging and having demands. Well, you know, next time, why don't you double that up? Triple that up for me. You know what I'm saying? That's my demand. Triple that up for me. They're gonna be like, fuck out of here, boy. What's wrong with you? Huh? But that's what it is, right? You put demands and telling the motherfucker, but wait a minute. And then use the verbiage and say, well, you know, the mayor's kind of like Hitler. Wait. They don't put Hitler on another white man. They put the Hitler on a black man. The man just got the damn job. The job came with this problem. He didn't create the problem. The problem was already there before he got there. And I'm going to show you something. Can you believe that? He called the black man the mayor of Chicago because he said he trying to find places. He being bombarded, right? People just, look what they send in New York. What he saying over there? You about to destroy them, right? Okay. Here's Chicago, same thing, right? Wait, hold on. Like, wait. We ain't got no places. So did you hear the demands? Well, you know, it's going to be cold in Chicago, right? It's going to be cold in Chicago. And you know, Chicago is known for these fierce, these fierce coldness here in Chicago. And I don't know if they build any tents that could actually withstand the winter. So we got a suggestion. We got a demand. You got all these abandoned buildings here. Wait. You got a lot of homeless people that's here that's black too. If you can give them that idea, you can do the same thing for them too. Oh, no. This is part of the game. That we ain't even talking about them. Again, she is advocating for what? Beyond borders, right? Save humanity beyond borders. We within the border. So ain't no help for us in here. Everything outside the game is good. And I'm going to show you why you in the game ain't part of the game. And only remedy they got for you, I don't think, again, you're going to have to think about Jacob and Esau. You're going to have to exchange your birthright for a bowl of soup. Let me say that one more again. The only remedy they got for you inside the border, who the game don't have nothing for, they do got a remedy for you. And there's some of them who've been teaching that. But if you've seen the last 2 shows back, you know what I'm about to say, where I'm going with that. That's the only remedy you got. And then there's some of you who've been put in that position by your parents because that was the trade-in for the bowl of soup for them to get in here was to give you to the state. Give you to the state so that they can, in exchange, get to be here. And then the other one is in reverse. Give up your birthright to get the bowl of soup. Hold on. We're going to get there. But did you hear the demand? Just give us some mops, some brooms, and let us sweep and clean it up. And let that be. Did y'all hear that? Did y'all hear her say that? She did say that, right? I didn't call the black man Hitler. Called the black man Hitler. Said, if you let them sleep, that's like putting them in the concentration camp. He ain't putting no gas. Oh, they're going to be in the cold winter in a tent. It's like equivalent to Hitler. Everybody use that on us, don't they? They always use. That is, again, this ain't to take nothing away from those who that's part of their history. But that didn't happen here. Let's get that straight. That history did not happen here. Yeah, it's a history. It's atrocious. It's heinous. But it don't take precedence over our own shit right here in this country. Even though we're coming to find out that maybe the story is a story more than what is reality. Well, that's what we're going to have to, we're going to tread over. So, can you believe that? Call the man Hitler and say, hey, but we got some demands. And by the way, you know all them abandoned buildings you got over there? Why don't you give that to them? Damn. Man, that's bold. That's real bold. Well, let me again give you, let me show you something here, right? Let me show you how the people, well, let me show this one sister that was very vocal. So y'all who last you might have heard of, I'm gonna give it to you again to just give you the context. Maybe I don't even need to play her. Maybe I am. I need to play because we're talking about the Aboriginal by another name. Because she's saying something, but no, sister, it ain't that. Just hold on. So listen to what they were saying in one part of that council meeting or community meeting about what's taking place. Listen to this and be right back.
Okay, I'll hold on to the cards then. When you hold on, y'all. When you ask your question, before you ask your question, can you mention your name so the folks know who's in the room?
My name is Doris Lewis. Well, I want to begin by saying I am absolutely livid. And you all are so hypocritical. I live right across the street from that hotel. Back in the spring when they were over there, they would be on our lawn, on our benches. I walk all the time. I'm walking around the building. What do I walk up on? 3 men urinating on the building. You call the police. You do not come. You run. You do not come. I have never been afraid as I am now because I walk a lot. I walk around my building. I am afraid. I don't want them there. Take them someplace else or send them back to Venezuela. I don't care where they go. This is wrong. You got 73% of the people homeless in this city are black people. What have you done for them? What are you doing for the thousands of black children who are not in school? Nothing. Nothing. And let me make it, we are not immigrants. I am a descendant of enslaved Africans who built this damn country. And they are not doing fair by black people in this city or in this country, period. We're tired of this. We are asylum seekers. We should be seeking because you're running us off the land. Everywhere there's a lot of
Doris, your time is
people.
up. Come on. We got your message, Doris. We got your message. All right, we got your message. Who's up next? Hold on. Can we get a little bit more order in the room, please?
You're out of order.
I disagree.
You're not representing. You black politician. You don't represent us. You represent everybody.
Thanks, Doris. Can we bring it down so that Doris, we were respectful during your comments. Did you be respectful? Doris, come on. We all are angry. We all are angry. Can we have this conversation respectfully? We hear you. Hold on a minute. Doris, come on. Doris, we understand, but can we make space for everybody else to talk? Can we please make space for everyone else to talk? There are a lot of opinions in the room, and yelling and devolving into chaos isn't going to get us anything.
All right, so based on, you heard the demands that's being stated by her, who is an advocate, I guess you can say advocate for those. Then you hear the residents and the conversation that's being said inside. And as you heard the elder there talk about how being of the descendants of from the inception of this country, and how that you can find these places for people. Again, it's not like we're non-hospitable, right? That we see people in need and we don't want to help. But when it becomes detrimental to your own existence, should there be a stop? Should we be like, hold on a minute, I'm not feeding my own children, so I can't feed all the children in the neighborhood as well if I ain't feeding my own. And some people feel like by us saying that we're being divisive or we're being anti-immigrants or immigration. No. I think if it was a lien on this was a house and we had the first lien, I think we have priority. And it's not wrong for us to say, hey, you know what? We got priority over some of these things here. And then when your situation is saying 75, 80% of the people who are homeless are cut from this cloth of people, you damn right, there's going to be some anger. But the reason why that is because there's a different game that we're not looking at. So here was the other half of the other individual who's with her, and listen what he says. Now remember, her demand is give us the abandoned buildings, right? That the tents in itself is not good enough. The people in the in the communities that they were trying to put them in were saying there's problems and that there's loitering and then there's vandalism and there's incidents that are happening and people are not feeling too safe and and they're not getting any real protection. So there's a real concern. So they're trying to find places for them. So Mayor Brandon of Chicago came up with, well, let's put them in the tent. Use winters come, and that that's not appropriate. And based on this being America, and this is the land of, give me your tithes, you're poor, and the most richest country in the world. Yeah, Again, I'll use an analogy like, say, for instance, being, let's say you are adopted child, but you was the very first one. So you kind of know the adopted parents better than everybody else that coming through the door. You know the front, you know the game they play. You know how they put on airs to make it seem and appear like everything is good. You can't say them because you live there. You got nowhere else to go. But every other kid coming in to get a new bed, new clothes, all this stuff, it's part of the process. You don't got to be accustomed to it. 5 kids, 10 kids, 15 kids. You're getting older, but you don't got much. You don't got nothing now. But everybody coming through that door, they getting the big new screen TV, refrigerator full of food, brand new, all the new gear. What you think the oldest one feeling a little bit like? They're feeling neglected, right? Feeling like you're not part of this, right? Or is that intentional? Or is it just maybe you just don't understand what's really going on here? Could it be that too? Well, stay tuned. So listen to this other part of the other individual. It's real short. Listen to what he said.
So that's Baltazar Enriquez, Enriquez. And we're gathered here this evening to see if we could get it through Mayor Johnson's head that these individuals that have fled their country to find asylum here should not be profited. They should not make money out of them. These 10 cities are nothing but money makers. I've been in the border where these tents are a failure, and they will be a failure here in the city of Chicago. So we're asking him to also recognize that these families are already traumatized, and to re-traumatize them by putting them in a tent will not only increase the COVID numbers here, also a pandemic. So we're very cautious on how we should treat these individuals, because again, they have crossed 8 countries. Some of them already come with malaria, with sicknesses that we need to be concerned about. So what we're asking the mayor is very simple. Stop this idea. Let's talk to even my Catholic church. Open the doors. Open the doors to the churches. If Jesus Christ was knocking, they have just denied him entrance. And that is not the Christian way. That's not what I was taught. I was taught that you open the door and you give them shelter. That's all we're asking. To treat us like human beings, like Christians, not like animals. And to also ensure the safety of these asylum seekers who are vulnerable. We already had incidents in the police department where there's allegation of rape, there's allegation of mistreatment, there's allegations of them beating them up. So we want to make sure that these asylum seekers that do not understand our law yet, they're just arrived. They don't know they have rights. They don't know that they have the right to complain. So they're being taken advantage. So we want to be the grassroots organizations to run these shelters, because we know and we have the experience on treating them. We know how to make sure that we don't re-traumatize them again. Our organizations have the experience. We've been on the forefront for years, and we're going to continue being on the forefront. These people are our people. And these Latinos have not only come from Venezuela, like the sister said, they come from all over the country. And we are going to help them not have the same experience that we did in the 80s, in the 90s, when there was immigration raids. This common mall got raided years ago in Little Village. They have targeted us before. So we want to make sure that we don't go backwards. We want to go forward. And now with Trump, they might get elected. We know that these houses will not be nothing but a roundup. We're rounding them up right now. So when Trump comes into office, we'll get them all deported. That's why we're fighting very hard to make sure we get them out of the system, because we know that later on the system will deport them. We've seen this before, and we know how this is going to end up. So that's what we're making sure that as an organization, we continue being their voice, we continue advocating for them, and telling Mayor Brandon Johnson, will you put your family in those tents? Will you sacrifice your families? And if so, then let's get it. If you're going to put your families in there, then let's put these families in there too. But if you're not, stop being a hypocrite. Because we don't need that type of leadership in the city of Chicago. Again, mi nombre es Baltasar Enríquez. Soy el presidente del Concilio.
That's Enrique Belshazzar. Belshazzar, that's I think his name. Enrique Belshazzar, right? And he said that
John, what do you
he need to
want
get it through his
us
stick
to
head, right?
take away from this extraordinary series of yours?
Well, I want people who are not Latin to have Latin envy and wish they had been born Latin, and for Latin people to realize, damn, being Latin is a superpower, man. I mean, the things that we've suffered in this country, 500 years, our wealth.
All right, so as you heard him say, he wanted Brandon Johnson to get through his stick head that they shouldn't be able to make profit off of the migrants. Wait a minute. See, listen to these demands. I don't think they would say that Mayor white folks, but black man or black people or again indigenous people and so forth, and Needy and so forth. I know many names, right? Many hats we wear, right? First, the other one called him Hitler. Now this one's saying, hey, you know what I'm saying? You're going to make profit. I think she alluded to the two. Said that you're going to make profit and with your friends, and you worrying about getting a place to lay your head. But then in the same breath, why don't you let us take care of them? So you want the money, huh? You want the money, right? Okay, that's what it is, huh? You want the money, right? You want to give your people and you want to make the money as well. But he shouldn't make the money. I mean, as a politician, I'm pretty sure somewhere the way the grease in the wheel of the machine works, somehow, you get your cut somewhere down the line, right? May not be right then and there, maybe be some later on down favor or so forth. We're going to say the politically correct way. We ain't going to say it's on exchange, but we're just going to say it, right? But the point I'm saying is, look at the demands. And what he's saying. And then, did you hear him say, I know y'all heard it, and I know that I was like, whoa, wait. Did you not hear him say, now over here we say, liquid blanket 19. We don't say the other word because they snatch you down. Liquid blanket. You remember the blankets they gave in the story they talk about here, history, that they said they gave the Indians blankets? Well, liquid blanket 19. Y'all know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about when I say liquid blanket 19? Did he not say was spread and be in effect, it will have concerns? Wait. So we know. Oh, then okay, they can't screen him for that, huh? They ain't come in here. He said carrying, bringing. If you put them in there, it's a good concern that can happen to spread. I mean, just coming with it in itself is concern, right? I guess maybe the reason why you can't hold them to it is because they don't have a contract. They're not under obligations of the contract to force them to do that, right? Is that probably what it is? They're not under the contract, so you can't hold them there. But yet they can come in here. So the possibilities of doing what? Bringing things in, right? You heard him say that. That wasn't me saying that. You heard his own mouth say that. So say, well, wait a minute. Okay, she said, well, we got the abandoned buildings. Well, you want to make money with your church, with your hotels. And then he said, well, wait a minute. Why don't you just open the churches? I don't know if he has the power. Those are the churches. If the church, what was that, Joe Osteen? He's like, I ain't gonna come up here and tell my good ass money making ass church. You ain't gonna come up in here with all that, right? Remember Joe Osteen? And then the pressure came on Joe Osteen. And he had to go in there. Yeah, what would you? Well, he prosperity. He ain't really about Jesus. He about prosperity. You know what I'm saying? But he said, what would you do with Jesus? Jesus knocking you and let. Well, we know your name Jesus. We get it. Your name Jesus. But they don't mean Jesus, right? Everybody play every game. The other one use Hitler. Yes, all kind of stuff. But wait a minute, what about the people already in there? They already got problems already up in there. Everybody coming with their demands, telling what you gonna do and what you shouldn't do. Huh? Wow. That he once himself lived in the tents, and the tents would be a bad idea. It don't seem like you're in no tent now. Seem like everything pretty good now, right? I mean, damn, motherfuckers want to come in. They want caviar. They want the limousine chauffeur. They want Don Perignon. You know what I'm saying? Hold on, wait a minute. You can't be choosing like that. And here's everybody else, the old adopted ones looking like they get to drive like that. They get to eat like that. You damn right it's going to cause a problem. Who in their right mind and think that one going to cause a damn problem? Crazy as hell. You thought that one going to create a damn problem. But let me show you something, because a lot of people associate, when you say sanctuary city, especially when you talk about Chicago, they make it to be like that was, we started that. And I'm going to put it collective as a group, individual that as a group. They gonna say we did this. Did y'all know that? Let me show you. Let me show you something here, huh? Look at your screen. Look at your screen. Put it down. Right? Put that. Hold on. Take that down. Take that down. So they can see that what they're on. Right? That's right there. Right? You see that on your screen, right? That is the actual Office of Mayor, Chicago, City of Chicago, Executive Order 85-1. See to the left of that? Harold Washington. Harold Washington. And okay, now let me tell you what happened with this Harold Washington, what Harold Washington did, but they said this is the beginning of Sanctuary City. In order to assure that all residents of the city of Chicago, regardless of nationality or citizenship, shall have fair and equal access to municipal benefits, opportunities, and services, it is hereby ordered. Section 1, the policy of the Office of the Mayor is declared to be encourage equal access by all persons residing in the city of Chicago, regardless of nation, of birth, current citizenship, to the full benefits, opportunities, and services, including employment and the issuance of licenses, which are provided or administered by the city of Chicago. To that end, the provisions of this order shall be liberally construed to provide such access to the extent consistent with applicable legislative and common law provisions. Section 2. The following definition shall apply to this order. Agencies, agency means varied departments, agency, division, commission, council, committee, board, other boards, persons established by or acting on behalf of City of Chicago, the direction of the mayor, except the city council and its committee. Agent means any person employed by or acting on behalf of agency defined in the section, right? Okay, mayor means many of the mayor's city of Chicago duly authorized agents. Citizen of residency status, citizenship residency status means all matters regarding questions of citizenship of the United States or any other country, question authority from the Immigration and Naturalization Service of the United States Department of Justice to reside or otherwise be present in the United States, and the time or manner of a person entered into the United States. The use in this order of the term residency shall not mean street address or location of residence in the city of Chicago or elsewhere. Okay? This was what Harold Washington did. Now, was that Sanctuary City? Is that Sanctuary City? Section 3 says no agent or agency shall request information about or otherwise investigate or assist in the investigation of the citizenship of the residency status or any person unless such inquiry or investigation is required by statute, ordinance, federal regulations, or court decision. Section 4, lastly, no agent or agency shall disseminate information regarding the citizenship or residency status of any person unless required to do so by legal process. Is that sanctuary city? Is that sanctuary city, y'all? Is that what that is? Is that really what that is? Is that what really happened? Because they try to credit and say that that's what happened. They said that it was Harold Washington who did it. Okay? Then there's the story of this. Put on your screen there. See Harold Washington there? And there's a lady with him who is Latino. Does anybody know who that is? I think she just passed a year or two ago from a liquid blanket 19. Let me say that. Right? I think she passed away from liquid blanket 19. Okay? So that's Maria Serta. That's her name, Maria Serta. Okay? And there's a story that goes with Maria Serta, that how they end up establishing what he ended up writing, which is that 85-1 bill. Okay? And according to the story, they say that Maria Serta had been accosted by police, and the police at this time in 85, they could walk up to you and ask you if you look like you was, an immigrant, to ask you for your legal status. And she was on her way to work. She was actually hired. Part of Harold Washington had actually hired her, and she was part of, I think it was the educational system, if I'm not mistaken. And what happened was this ordeal, they was about to do that with the police and so forth. Word got back to him. He said that will never happen again. And he created the 85-1 bill. Okay. Then in 2016, because, Harold Washington dies in his, in 85, right? Harold Washington dies. I think it was about November 1985, right? And so in 2000, hold on, before I do that, let's do this. Hold on. So, but in 2016, right? Let me show y'all this. City Council, right? Chicago City Council passed a law protecting immigrants, right? That's in 2016. That's going to be under the mayor. That's going to be Daley, right? It's going to be Richard J. Daley who does that, right? Okay. And when you read that article, they talk about how in 85, how Harold Washington issued the executive order. So they're going to say Harold Washington is the one who created the executive order. And it was supposed to be forbidding Chicago police and other officials from cooperating with what they call INS at the time. Today is Homeland Security, right? I think it's Homeland Security, but it's INS, right? Which is the Immigration Enforcement Action. And he did this because of her being Latino and her working for his cabinet, right? Now check this out. So because of her Latino community, they had asked him, and he was at that time criticizing how the federal authorities was questioning immigrants in Chicago. There's another backdrop story that happened at this particular time too, when you heard that Enrique Beltraz talk about how they were raiding immigrants at that particular time back in the 80s, 70s and the 80s. They was doing the cab drivers. They was grabbing up a lot of the cab drivers and hauling them off. So, impeding in business with the taxis. They didn't like it. Had a lawyer. There was another brother that ended up fighting for it. And so we have black folks, indigenous, needy Moors, Aboriginal, right? in behalf of people, right? Helping them under those such situations. So the Latinos and the Mexicans got together during this time, fighting to block some of this stuff that was happening. So there was an alderman named Billy Ocasio who ended up introducing, as you see, the 16, but it should have been 2006, right? It should have been 2006. I said 16, right? Should have been 2006. I'm sorry. 2006 bill. Okay. And then supposedly they were Eugene Sawyer who come in behind. Well, I think it was David Orr behind him. Then it was Eugene Sawyer. And then it was Richard Daley one. And they kind of just kept it. Now, the thing is, that was just an executive order. It don't have a lot of teeth in that. It was put on the board. It made an order. It was made for the clerks and them to not have to really, when it comes to the INS questioning them, they didn't have to because it was mandated by the state. You know how to get the separate between federal and state. So him being the mayor, making an executive order that the employees that were state employees or city employees didn't have to adhere to it. That's what that was. It was not sanctuary city. But they sell it like it was. But who really did it? Who was the one that really did it? Well, let me show who really did it. Okay? Yeah, that's who really did it. That's who really did it. Okay? Okay? Yeah, it was that guy. What they call now welcoming city. The ordinance is much greater than the executive order. The ordinance, which got police had to adhere to it and so forth, right? So it was here in 2012. Same one as you talking about what? DACA. Who left Washington and came to Chicago? Being with who and came to Chicago? Yeah. Right? Okay. All right. All right. So with that being said, all right, so this been going on. And then again, for those who watched the week before, we talked about how the 50 plus schools that had been closed, right? 50 some plus schools that had been closed. Remember what they've been trying to ease them in at first? Over there, where? Okay. So somewhere down the line, going back, remember what Biden said? Well, I showed you what Biden said in 2014, unrelentless, right? So it didn't fruition. It didn't blew up to where it's at now. It's just overspilling, right? And so now you, as Black Americans, indigenous, Needy, Moors, all the umbrella terms, the hats that we wear, those we call down south, or those Black Americans, we looking and say, okay, well, how is it going to benefit and how does it work for us? Because there's only two people in this land, according to the way they say the game goes. Native Americans, which again we defined last week. We showed you what that really is. And then there's those who they say Black Americans, right? Everybody else is from somewhere else or have paperwork that's going to say that their people came from somewhere else. All we got is a story. And a lot of people try to hold true that story is our story, do they not? And there's a lot of people who push that because their ideology is whether they believe in Pan-Africanism and so forth and other things. Okay, with that being said. And then there's some people who will say because they wrote certain things in history and the story that's true. But when you go in your own family and go back, what do you see? Not what they tell you. What are you seeing when you're going back? Oh, I took the DNA test. I took okay. But I did the show and I showed you that how they end up getting to start from here and put that in that DNA test, because what they found in New York in them mass burials, and they use that as the starting point. because they said a lot of them they believe were Africans. Okay. Now, what I want to show you something here is, right? Federally, there was already something that was done by Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan had already did something, but there was another story that preceded before what Harold Washington did. Some of y'all might have remembered. If I say, what was her name? Elvira. What was her name? Elvira. What was her damn name? Elvira something. What name? Elvira Arellano. Anybody remember her? Elvira Arellano, I think her name was. Remember she had the little son? And then she hid out in the churches? That was Chicago. Oh, y'all don't remember? Oh, here you go. Be right back.
There's a world outside her window. But Elvira Arellano never steps out of her small Chicago apartment above Adalberto United Methodist Church. The storefront church has provided refuge since she defied a deportation order to go back to Mexico. Arellano and her son Solito, born in the U.S., have lived in these 5 rooms and the pews downstairs since August 2006.
I came here because my son is a citizen. If I go back to Mexico with him, Solito is not going to have the benefits and the life that maybe he would have here.
Arellano has twice entered the country illegally. She was arrested while cleaning planes at O'Hare Airport using a phony social security number.
For me, it's no crime to go out and search for a better life for my family.
Immigration agents could come at any time, but haven't, perhaps because the situation has become symbolic to many people.
Yeah, she is an inspiration, and she does not look for her own comfort.
Church members visit constantly, take care of their laundry, buy their groceries, escort Solito to and from school.
We all are involved, all the congregation. A woman, a single woman, mother of a child, it's very hard.
In this low-income area, immigration issues are a daily part of life.
Well, our church was really founded by about 125 families, about half of which were undocumented. And civil disobedience is a tradition of our church. Nonviolent civil disobedience, which also includes the willingness to accept the consequences. Her witness has been very important to the debate about immigration in this country. It's a family issue, a human issue.
Officially, the United Methodist Church has not endorsed what Pastor Coleman's congregation has done, but regional leaders say local churches can make a witness through their ministry, and that historically the church has been a place of refuge for people in need. Arellano and her supporters say they will not resist if the federal authorities do come.
And by what I'm doing, I'm also letting people know, because these laws do not change. We only change the laws when people start to come out to organize and work together to change the laws.
There's a world outside her window, but Elvira Arellano never steps out of her small Chicago apartment above Adalberto United Methodist Church. The storefront church has provided refuge since she defied a deportation order to go back to
about that, y'all. I'll let that slide by. So again, that's Elvira Arellano. Yeah, and that was she's considered now an international activist who works to defend human rights of immigrants living in the United States. Now, she goes back to 2006 as well. She goes back. So that tells you what that 2006 what they did had something to do with her as well. The initial part what Harold Washington did with Maria, what was her name? Maria Serta. That started with Harold Washington that's protecting one of his employees and to keep that from that. But what happened in 2006 when they expanded it, right, probably had something to do with her because she was hiding in the church with her son. And as you heard her say, why would I take my son out of this country where he could get all the benefits and then to take him back from which we came and he had to be all messed up, right? See, everybody gets the benefit here, but we don't get the benefit. But you got to find out why is that? Why is it that, you know, people from around the world can, you know, they come here seeking asylum, refugee, and so forth, and then they have the red carpet for them. But when it comes to you, I'm not saying that there aren't any things that we're not getting. We're not saying that we don't get nothing. But in the mass numbers that we see like that, we understand it's part of the game that they signed up for. But that game been around as long as we've been. You know what I'm saying? Well, put it this way: since the creation of what they call the United States, because we've been here since the beginning of that as well, right? And so when you look at that, you realize that, well, wait a minute, where do we fit in that game? Ask yourself, remember about the Dred Scott situation. You cannot be a citizen in this country no matter what they tell y'all, okay? Especially when you call yourself an African. And that's not to say knocking Africans because like we're looking down on Africans, but when you understand the game that they play here, you cannot be a citizen as an African. That was what the problem that was with Dred Scott, that he admitted in the abatement that his parents were Africans. So under the Constitution, he could never be a citizen. Just like when we was looking in Australia, when they was talking about creating and trying to implement them into the Constitution. And you heard the Jacinta, who's been part of the Aboriginals, say, well, they were never put in there. Of course not. The Aboriginals could never be a part of the Constitution. Never could be considered a citizen unless you're willing to swap it for a bowl of soup. But what are you talking about, Mr. Blows Your Mind? All right. Let's look at this. Let's look. Okay. Let's look at this. All right. You know when they tell you that they call what is the peculiar system called in this land? What is that called? What was the peculiarness about the so-called slave system here? Even though a lot of us, we don't subscribe to that. That is the history they tell us. But there's a particular term that they use, and I'm going to show you why that is there. Okay, I'm going to show you why, from my estimation and understanding of my research and so forth, this is what I come to understand by this. Let me show y'all something. Let me see if I got it here. I may not have got it in here, do I? Did I take it out? Hold on. I might have took that out, huh? No, I think I got it. Hold on. 1 second. 1 second, y'all. Show y'all something. Let me show y'all something. Oh, I ain't got it in there. Oh, shit, took it. Oh, here you go. Okay. You see this term here? You see that? Parta sequita ventrum? You know what that is? That's chattel slavery. Right? That's chattel slavery. Okay? Chattel slavery meaning that if your mother was a slave or born as a slave, that what was produced through her, that became one. Right? The perpetualness of that. Now, when did that become part of the system here? When you go over to Britain and you look, you'll see the law, Butt versus Penny in 1677 is the origins of it. Again, you got to remember that those that were here originally were the children, right, that came from over there in Britain, right, or England, right, right. And it was this case, Butt versus Penny, that set up what they call, again, right, movable property, right?
It's you liberals who have lifted them up, Howard.
Paul, you conservatives make a mistake. You can't afford to strangle hope in people. Without hope, people become dangerous.
No, Howard. You liberals have let them invade our society. You give them jobs.
We ain't got no fences here at Camp 8. We don't need no fences. We got us the gun. We ain't got no fences here at Camp 8. We don't need no fences. We got us the gun line.
Tell them about the gun line, boss.
This is the gun line. It runs from shack to shack, clear around the yard. You want